Let's go. Yo, I'm like an addict, do I gotta have it. I ain't even playing.
Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. My name is Timmy Kenza James. For our new and old subscribers, you're all welcome to today's video. So I'm going to be showing you how to make this dress and with a sleeve. The sleeve now is where the drama is. So first off, I just went ahead to iron my fabric. As you can see, I'm using this lovely Ankara print. So next I'm going to be marking the length of my dress, right? So I'll just go ahead and rule a line across it like so. Now I forgot to tell you, but I folded my fabric in half, and the total number of what I folded was the largest body circumference measurement, which is my hip measurement. That's the client's hip measurement, divide by 4 plus, let's say 8 inches is what I use to fold this. Now I'm marking my neckline, then my shoulder line, half of my neck, half of my shoulder, and then 1 inch lower from my shoulder point, right? Now for someone with a wider shoulder, you can just go ahead and elongate that slanted line that you can see. You can make it longer and continue your measurement on that slant. If your shoulder is smaller, you can bring it up like that, just like you can see. So that's what I'm doing right now. So next I'm going to be marking my armhole line. So that's from the 1 inch downwards, that's where my armhole line is. So next I'm going to be marking what I have on that armhole line on the other side, so that I can draw a straight line, which I went ahead to rule like so. Then the next thing I'm going to be doing is to be marking from my shoulder to my affluence point. So for this client I'm using 18 inches for my affluence, right? Now I'm not going to be needing my bust and my under bust circumference because it's a pretty free dress. There's nothing, it's not so free, but it's not a tight or fitted dress, so that's why I'm marking my affluence direct. Now the next thing I'm going to be doing is to rule a line across that point. So by so doing, I have my affluence line, right? So the next thing is to mark my hip point. So I'll be marking from the shoulder to the hip point like so, that you can see me do. So after my hip point, whatever I put on my measurement, I'll put it on the other side of it as well, so that I can go ahead and rule a straight line on it properly, right? So these are my measurements that I have. Now from this point I'm going to mark. Now that 8 inches I use is what I'm going to be marking. The 8 inches on my shoulder is what I marked on my chest line. Then I'm going to be drawing a line to connect that like so. Then the next thing, I'll be marking my bust measurement on my chest line, right? So I'm going to mark a quarter of my bust measurement on my chest line like so. So by the time I do that, I'm going to go ahead and make my curve. But before my curve, I'm going to be adding half of an inch for ease. You remember I said it's not a fitted dress, so that's why I'm adding that half of an inch for ease, right? Then I'll add 1 inch or 1.5 inch sewing allowance. You can go ahead and add whatever sewing allowance works for you. For me, 1.5 is fine. So on the waistline, I'm going to be doing the same thing. My waist measurement, divide by 4 plus half inch of ease and 1 inch or 1.5 inch of sewing allowance. And likewise on the hip line, my hip measurement, divide by 4 plus my sewing allowances, right? Then that's what I'm just going to be doing pretty much. Before I'll now show you what I'm going to be doing on the hemline, right? Sewing allowance. Then because it's an A-line dress, I'm just going to sort of slant it that way. But before then, I'll connect using my pant cuff. I'll connect my lines together like so. I'll flip it and connect it like so. Now on the hem side, I'll just move my fabric and mark the hem. So what do I have here? I have 13 in total, so I'm going to make here 15. I'll mark my 15, then I'll go ahead and just, you can use a ruler, it's fine. mark it like so. And coming back up here, I'll just use this for my armhole curve, to make my armhole curve. Now ordinarily my half length or my affluence would have been 17, but this is the front side of the dress. I made it 18 because I'm going to add a little dart here to sort of define the bust area, since it doesn't have a dart, and my hip point would have been 25, right? So that's why I have this, and my length was so I just added 1 inch to all of my measurements. That's all of my vertical measurements. So from here, this armhole, I'll just go ahead and mark 4 inches downwards. Then from that 4 inches, I'll mark another 1 inch. Now I'm going to take a dart there, so that's why I added that this. So on this point, I'll take a dart, so I'll make notches by the time I'm cutting this. So I'll sew the dart from the side bust, pivoting towards the bust point. So I'm going to mark my bust point now. So I'll go ahead and place my tape to my bust point area. So I'm going to mark 12 now, then my bust span. So on this point that I have here, that's my bust point. So on the other side of the fabric as well, I'll make that same mark just to know where my bust point is, where I'll be pivoting this line, that line too. So now let's go ahead and cut. Now I'm going to go ahead and lay my fabric like so. I'll lay that front side like so, and I'm going to leave some space here, which I'm going to be using for my zip allowance, right? So I'll leave around 1.5 inches here for my zipper, right? So I'm coming up here. You remember I told you I added 1 inch for the sake of this dart. So I'm going to come up, and on the back side I'll take out that 1 inch. I'll bring up the 1 inch back like so, right? So I'm going to go ahead and cut. Now if you notice I've not cut the front neckline, I'll come back to that. So I'll just cut. Now I'll move this further, and on the back side I'm going to cut out 1 inch, that 1 inch here from the length, and just sort of go slanted. I'll just do this, then I'll cut this zipper allowance open. Now it's just the back side that I'm cutting open, right? So now on the back neckline, I'll match my neckline, and then I want the opening to be more than 3 inches. So on my shoulder slant, I'll add 1 inch from that 3 inch neck point. I'll add 1 inch. Then for the front neckline, I want the depth to be 4.5 inches. And the back neckline to be 2 inches. So I'll mark 2 inches, and now I'll cut the 2 inches for the back first, like so. Then I'll just go ahead and mark the front. Then now I'm not going to cut the front, it's just the back. I'm not going to cut the back, it's just the front. So here we go. Now this is what I have. So I'm going to notch my dart point. So I'll just fold my dart, just that 1 inch point. I'll make a notch on both sides on the front. So the side dart is going to be just on the front side, right? So here we have our panels. I'll go ahead and cut my lining piece. The lining is just going to be halfway. I'm not taking it all the way down. So I'll cut my lining and I'll come back to cut the sleeve. Now we are going to mark the length of the sleeve. So I'm working with 26 now, not because the length is 26, around 23 should work, but because it sort of bounces up a little bit, that's why I'm making it 26, or I can just do 25 since there's a band. So I'll just mark 25 as the length of my fabric. Now I just folded this fabric in half, depending on how wide you want it to be, right? So for me, I'm using it's 1.5 yard, so I'm just folding it by that 1.5 in general, right? So because from here the sleeve attached up till somewhere around the bust area or under the bust, so I'm going to make, and the sleeve is really big, so I'm just going to go ahead and go all the way to this point, right? So you can see. Now I'll mark 25 here as well. Then on this side, now I'll mark 7 inches for my calf's height, and the reason is because it went all the way. So now I'm going to get this to get to that 7-inch point, right? So this is what I have. So I'm going to just go ahead and cut it. Ordinarily I would have used 4 inches for the calf's height. Give me scissors. And I'll make a band for the hem here. So I'll cut the second one and I will cut the band and come back and show you. So I have my front panel here, and I've gone ahead to cut my lining piece. So I'm just going to attach the lining like so, and I'll go ahead. Now I'm matching the lining right side facing right side. Then I'll turn on my machine and go ahead and sew the neckline round. So I'll turn it over like this and I'll give it a nice press. Then I'll do the same thing for the back sides, right? This is it. I'll iron it nicely. Then I'll do the same thing to the back side and come back to show you. So the band is just a long strip of fabric. For me, I cut out around 42.5 by 6. So I have it folded, so 42 by 6 is fine. So the sleeve is just going to be inside here like this, and the rest will be that tying details here. So I have 2 pieces of it. So let's go ahead and join it. Now I'm going to join the back shoulder and the front shoulder together, right? So from the shoulder line, I'll just match it like so, and this is right side, this is right side. I'll match the right side together like so. Now this excess I have on the back, I'll just trim it off on the back lining, right? So by the time I match the right side together, I'll just grab the lining piece of the back side, one of the lining pieces. I have these other 3 held together. Then I'll just flip it like so to the back side, so that it sandwiches everything together, or it holds. I'll have a clean seam there, and both the front and back side will look nice and clean. So I'm going ahead to sew. Now I'll take down some of this sewing allowance so that I can turn it out and it looks flat. So by the time I open it up, you can see even the wrong side looks nice and clean. Likewise the right side as well, so you can see. So I'll do the same thing on the other side, then we'll come and join the body. Now by the time you're done with the shoulder, I'm going to join the body, but before then, you remember our darts that we notched around here. So I'm going to match both the lining and the main fabric. Then I'll go ahead and fold the darts together, and I'll be sewing the darts, right? So you can sew it separately. That's, you sew the one on the fabric, you sew the one on the lining, which will still be okay, but I'm not going to be sewing mine separately. So here you go. So now it creates a little bit of room to fit in the bust. It might not look like it's going to do a lot, but it definitely is going to do a lot for the bust area, right? So I'm going to close it now. So both the front and the back, I'll bring it together, and I'll sew starting from the armhole down. So if you notice, I've not put on the zip or anything. It's still very much open. So using the sewing allowance that I left, I'm going to be sewing the body down. Now make sure that the right side of your seam line, that's your underarm seam line, matches the right side of your side seam line, like so. So I'm going to keep the seam allowance open. Then I'll go ahead and stitch the back stitch from the beginning. Then following that mark that you made, you're going to sew. Now ensure that your lining is sitting properly, everything is sitting nice. That's if you use lining. So I'm just going ahead to sew round. Now for the band on the sleeve, what I did is I just went ahead to iron it out like a bias. That's that double ironing inside, and I folded it like so. So what I'm going to do now is to flip it to the wrong side. I'll just fold this side close. Then when I get to that the first folding line, the crease line for the ironing, I'll just go ahead and sew like so till I get towards the middle of it. So I'll just fold it like so, like this. When I get there, I'll measure 4.5 inches. That's going to give me 9 inches, right? So I'll mark 4.5 like this. Now that's where I'm going to use to tuck in this point. So I'll just mark 4.5 like so on this side and on the other side. So I'm going to just sew up to that point. So here is the point here. So I'll just sew to that point like so. I get there, I'll back stitch. Now I'll flip to the other side. I'll back stitch. Then I'll sew again. To this point. Now what I want to do is to leave a total of 9 inches open. So that's where I'm going to tuck in my white fabric. So I'm going to turn this in to the back to the right side. So I'll just cut off this excess sewing allowance here. And then I can cut off part of this sewing allowance, but I'm not going to cut off this one here. So whatever works for you. So now I have that 9 inches opening. So from here to here is 9 inches. That's the opening here to here, right? So I'm going to have to loosen this. That was an error, so I'll have to loosen a little bit. I'm ripping some of this side seam, just a little bit. So I just ripped some of the seam like so. So I'm going to now tuck it in. So starting from here. So I just close it. So one thing I will do is to loosen this underarm seam. I'm not going to loosen all of it. I'll just lose like 2 inches long here so that it can enable easy passage into the band. So by the time I was done, here's the finished look. I added my zipper, closed the back, and this is it. So if you enjoyed this video, please give me a thumbs up, subscribe if you're not yet subscribed, and click the notification bell so you get notified whenever I have a new video up on my channel. And please share my video with your friends. See you in my next tutorial, guys. Bye.